Here's my take on a much debated and often misunderstood topic. Most people don't actually know what their actual retirement number is, and honestly, it's costing them big time. Last year, a national study said the average American believes they need about 1.46 million to retire comfortably. That number exploded across the internet, news sites, financial blogs, even the kind of casual conversations over coffee where everyone secretly worries they're falling behind. It became the magic number people threw around without a second thought. But here's the thing. This year, there's a new number. Is it bigger? Is it smaller? We're going to talk about that in a second. But we're also going to hit on whether that number actually means anything or should mean anything to you. Because the truth is that number, it means something very different depending on who you are. It's one thing if you live in Omaha, Nebraska, another if you live in Manhattan. It's one thing if you get a pension. It's another if you're staring down the barrel of a giant mortgage. It's everything if you have a chronic health condition. But here's the thing, without a clear understanding of your real situation, your needs, your goals, your lifestyle, that 1.46 million number and this year's number is just noise. And the worst part, that noise can make people work years longer than they actually have to, or worse, live way smaller than they really should, depriving themselves of the retirement they earned. And the magic number can backfire. I think about my dear client, Angela. She'd been a saver her whole life. No crazy spending habits, modest lifestyle. She really tried. And she came into my office looking defeated. She had read all the articles. She saw all the magic numbers, the conversations. She convinced herself she was hopelessly behind. She was anxious. She was scared, overwhelmed. You name it. But when we sat down and ran her actual numbers, she was not only okay, she was already there. She had enough. She could retire that year if she wanted to. She broke down crying, not because she was sad, but because she realized how much unnecessary stress she had been carrying for all of those years. And maybe you're thinking, that won't happen to me. I've got a rough estimate. I'm good. But look, unless you've actually defined your magic number for your life, you're just guessing. And when it comes to your future, guessing is not a good strategy. Welcome to the Retirement Guide channel. I'm Daryl Rosen. My firm, Securement Wealth, helps people just like you plan for and hopefully enjoy retirement. Hopefully. So what's the new magic number? This is so exciting. The new number, wait for it, it went down from 1.46 million to 1.26 million, which brings up a few quick questions. Is that good news or bad news? And should you feel better or worse? Here's my clear, definitive answer based upon my somewhat vast knowledge. I don't know. Because your retirement numbers should never be based on what's trending nationally. It should be based on you. Because it is not what you have, it's what you spend. Today we're going to get into some variables that will affect your number. But beforehand, why did the magic number go down? It seems like these things only go up. There could be a few reasons. Nobody really knows for certain. The first reason could be market uncertainty and inflation. Markets are bouncing around and people second guess everything. They think maybe I won't get the returns I expected, or maybe I'll have to work a few more years. Maybe I'll spend a little less. It's same with inflation, which forces people to rethink how much they think they'll really actually need. Sometimes the response is scaling back, so they think they'll need a little bit less as a result. Inflation has also come down a little bit, so that could be part of it. I know this seems a little counterintuitive, and you'd expect people to think they need more, but that's not the way I see it play out in practice. Another variable is changing priorities. Here's what I've seen with my clients. More and more clients are telling me, I don't need all this stuff. I don't need to have a big house. I don't need more than one car. I just want time. I want freedom. I want connection. Experiences are becoming more important than possession. So when your values shift, your number will probably shift as well. And that's actually healthy. And to be honest, it's pretty refreshing. The hard reality behind the numbers, even though people say they need less to retire than they did a year ago, there's still a big reality check. A lot of them are nowhere close. That same study showed that about 25% of Americans' retirement savings, they only have enough to cover 1 year or less of their current income. And that's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake all of us up. Your balance matters, yes, but how you live matters even more. The real plan, it's not just about stockpiling cash. It's about building a bridge between your savings and the life you want to live. And that bridge is based on many variables. Let's dig into 7 of them. Of course, geography changes everything. The cost of living in Manhattan is more than double the national average. Places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Knoxville, Tennessee can cost 30 to 40% less. In fact, I had a client move from the Chicago suburbs to Asheville, North Carolina. Same lifestyle, lower taxes, lower health care. They effectively stretched the retirement money by about 7 years. It was stunning, without cutting back on anything they love. Bill Perkins calls it geographic arbitrage in his book Die with Zero. Where you live matters just as much as how much you've saved. And I've seen people totally change retirement just by moving somewhere cheaper, where their money goes further and their happiness grew as well. One couple even told me their biggest regret was not doing it sooner. Lower taxes, lower healthcare costs, a slower, easier way of life. It gave them back something money alone couldn't buy for them: time. And really, that's the real goal, because retirement isn't about piling up a bunch of money just to stare at it. It's about building a life you don't need a break from. I have often felt that the smartest move isn't saving more, it's changing the game a little. The second variable is your housing situation, which is related to where you live. It's your biggest expense. Do you still have a mortgage, which could be a drag on monthly income? Are you renting? Costs could be unpredictable. If you own your home free and clear, I guess congratulations, you just gave yourself a permanent raise. Housing eats up about 35% of retiree spending, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I had a client named Ben who delayed retirement because of a $2,500 mortgage. And I remember once he sold and he downsized and he paid off a new, smaller home outright, he was able to move up his retirement date by about 3 years. That was 3 extra years of freedom. He was super happy. And that's the kind of math that matters. Yes, even with Medicare, healthcare costs are real and rising faster than most people plan for. According to Fidelity, a 65-year-old couple retiring today can expect to spend about $315,000 on healthcare during retirement, and that's assuming average health and average lifespans. But here's where it gets real. If you or your spouse have a chronic condition, anything diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, that number isn't just going up a little, it can double or even triple. I worked with a woman whose husband developed diabetes just a few months before they planned to retire. Overnight, the retirement budget had to shift drastically. Medications, specialists, increased insurance premiums, out-of-pocket costs. What they thought was more than enough suddenly felt kind of tight. And it wasn't just financial, it was emotional. Stress, anxiety, second-guessing decisions they had made years before. And it's not just everyday medical care you have to think about. Long-term care is the elephant in the room. Today, private nursing home costs can exceed $100,000 per year, depending on where you live in. Assisted living and memory care facility, those costs are rising also, often faster than the rate of inflation. So we have to have a hard truth here. Ignoring healthcare planning is like building your retirement house without a roof. Everything might look fine at first, but sooner or later the storm will come. And when it does, you'll wish you had prepared a little differently. The smartest retirees I work with aren't just thinking about how to fund their vacations and their hobbies, the fun stuff. They're thinking about how to protect their future selves, the ones who might one day need more help, more care, and more financial flexibility. Because in retirement, your biggest risks aren't always about the stock market and those variables. Sometimes they're about you, your body, your health, your ability to stay independent. And planning for that isn't pessimistic, it's powerful. Guaranteed income is good, right? The more predictable your income, the more flexible your retirement becomes. Pensions, Social Security, annuities. These steady streams make your retirement portfolio a lot more durable. In fact, retirees with pensions, according to the Employee Benefit Research Institute, they are 40% likely to outlive their money, which is actually, I guess, a good thing. I had a retired teacher with no fancy investments, no stress. Pension and Social Security covered everything she needed. Her savings, that was just gravy on top. So the point here is the less you have to pull from your savings every month, the stronger your plan becomes. And presumably, the smaller your number needs to be. This is one of those big differences. As is your spending lifestyle, right? This might be the most overlooked factor in all these magic number analysis. Your retirement spending pattern, not your investment returns. That's the real driver behind how much money you're actually going to need. One of my favorite takes on this comes once again from Bill Perkins in the great book Die with Zero. He makes the case that the first phase of retirement, these so-called go-go years, this is really when you should lean into your spending more, not less. The reason is because you're younger, healthier, more mobile, you're physically able to do things you've been putting off for decades, the kind of travel, the hiking, visiting, the grandkids if they're nice to you, taking that dream trip to Italy. The data backs it all up. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that retirees spend 3 times more on travel, leisure, and experiences in their first 5 to 10 years of retirement than they do later on. The mistake a lot of people make, they try to spread their spending evenly, like you're buttering a piece of toast over a 30-year retirement. And life doesn't work like that. You have go-go years, you have slow-go years, you have no-go years, which is a phrase that comes from the retirement researcher Michael Stein. It's spot on. If you front load your retirement dreams and plan for it, you're not being reckless. You're kind of honoring your window of time when your health and your energy these are at a premium. And relationships allow you to truly make the most of what you have. One of the saddest things I hear from older retirees, I wish I had traveled more when I could, because once the knees go bad, personal experience, or the energy fades or caregiving responsibilities arrive, no amount of money can buy that time back. Retirement planning isn't just about making your money less, it's about making your life matter while you're still able to live it fully. So when retirement planning was invented, the assumption was similar. Retire at 65, die at 75. Not anymore. Today's 65-year-olds have a 1 in 4 chance of living till 90. About 1 in 10 will make it to 95. And in the incredible book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, he says the biggest financial risk isn't a market crash. It's living longer than you plan for. I have a family member retired at 58, lived to 96. She spent more years in retirement than she did working. And imagine the power and peace of mind of planning for that possibility. This is the last big variable, investment risk and return expectations. If you are assuming an 8 to 10% return forever, you might be setting yourself up for trouble. Vanguard's 2024 outlook, future returns could be closer to 5 or 6% annually. And I have a friend who assumed 8% returns, despite my best guidance, and he pulled in about 6%. After a couple of market years, he had to sit down, breathe, and redesign everything. Now he plans more conservatively, and he's sleeping much better. If the markets deliver more, awesome. If they don't, his plan still holds up. That's retirement security. All right, so let's wrap this thing up. Your retirement number is and always will be personal. The retirement number is not a headline. It's not a national statistic. It's not a magic formula that everyone fits into nice and neatly. It's yours. It's built around your life, your health, your dreams, your risks. And if you like this video, you might like this one and this one. And thanks again for watching.